I want to invite you to turn with me in the book of Isaiah, chapter number 26. Isaiah chapter number 26. I want to read some verses with you this morning. And as I do, I'm mindful of my own weakness, my own frailties. I approach the book of Isaiah by faith as the revelation of God, the inspired, holy Word of God. I want you to read this song of praise with me. It's a song of praise for Judah, a song of praise that would resound from Jerusalem in a day of turmoil and trouble on every hand. Read with me what the prophet Isaiah says here to the people of God. He says, "In that day shall this song be sung in the land of Judah." What is this song? It's a beautiful song. "We have a strong city. Salvation will God appoint for walls and bulwarks. Open ye the gates, that the righteous nation which keepeth the truth may enter in." Read verse 3 out loud with me if you would. "Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on Thee, because he trusteth in Thee. Trust ye in the Lord forever. For in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength. For He bringeth down them that dwell on high. The lofty city, He layeth it low. He layeth it low, even to the ground. He bringeth it even to the dust. The foot shall tread it down, even the feet of the poor, and the steps of the needy." Lord, I humble myself before You this morning and just ask that You would use me as Your vessel. That the words I speak forth would only be those that would glorify and magnify Your name. And as I hold forth Your word that's magnified above all Your name, I pray that it would go forth with Your power and unction upon it. Lord, hide me behind the cross of Calvary today. May Jesus be high and lifted up in our midst. May I decrease and may He increase. And may You accomplish Your purpose this morning through Your word. Help me to have that as my only foundation. As I hold my Bible in one hand and a newspaper in the other, Lord, I look around and I see that the world hasn't changed much since Isaiah's day. And we need that river of peace that only Jesus can give. And if there's one that's lost and on their own this morning, I pray that they would come to the feet of Calvary and they would find Jesus to be the Prince of Peace for them. In His precious, holy, saving name I pray. Jesus Christ, my Savior. Amen. Amen. Hey, as I read through Isaiah, I can fully understand what Philip asked. You remember that story in the book of Acts when Philip came and he was led of the Spirit into the desert as the eunuch was traveling from Jerusalem back down to his home in Ethiopia. You remember that story? Philip, the soul winner, comes along and joins himself to this man that's reading. Somebody help me out. Where was he reading? Where was that eunuch reading? What scroll did he have? Isaiah. And what was Philip's question to him? He said, "Understandest thou what thou readest?" So if I can, in the spirit of Philip this morning, come to you and say, hey, have you read Isaiah lately? Have you read through these pages of the major prophet? He's not major because he's more important. It's just because it's a bigger book of prophecy. If you've read through Isaiah, my question is to you what Philip asked that eunuch, understandest thou what thou readest? Isaiah is one of those books we come to sometimes. Maybe you're making your way through your yearly Bible reading and you come to Isaiah and you're like, man, this is a lot of prophetic things happening here. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of poetry. There's a lot of things in Isaiah. And sometimes, it really speaks to my soul and I get this part of it. And then there's a verse here that I'm latching onto. And then the rest of it, I'm just kind of like reading and getting past. Okay, where's the next verse I cling to? And what does all this mean? I understand why Philip would ask that eunuch, understandest thou what thou readest? He's reading Isaiah with eyes that can't see beyond the surface. And I want to journey with you this morning through Isaiah just a little bit, but also I want to think about this book and how it pertains to us where we live here today. In the spirit of Isaiah, I want to come to you and just make sure that you're anchored to something that's timeless. That you are truly able in your walk with God to be unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. There's only one way to arrive at that place. If you'll journey with me, I think you'll be convinced alongside that there's only one source for perfect peace. There's only one source. Understandest what thou readest? Like that eunuch, I say, how can I? How can I? Except a man guide me. Let me be your guide this morning. Let me point out some signposts along the way that Isaiah gives. And as I do so, I just want to kind of bring things up to speed and say what I'm going to share with you this morning is as relevant today as it was when Isaiah uttered the prophecy. Now granted, okay, you and I aren't living in Judah. Okay, we haven't come through a civil war that's divided our nation. We actually made it through our civil war united for the most part. But all that's being undone before our very eyes. Are you paying attention to what's going on in our nation? How polarized people have become? And while we may not have physical boundaries, may I submit to you that we have polarization like I've never seen it in my generation. The same kind of polarization faced Isaiah. They had the 10 tribes in the north. They had, and as you read his prophecy, that would be known as Ephraim. When you read about Ephraim, you're reading about the northern 10 tribes of Israel in his prophecies. Now, Isaiah is prophesying from Judah in the south, okay? And he's giving forth the prophecy, and he's serving under the reigns of kings like Uzziah. And he's got a long ministry. His ministry is going to span, decades of time. Kings are going to rise and kings are going to come and go. And Isaiah is going to be ministering through it all. He's going to minister under the reign of kings like Hezekiah, Uzziah and Hezekiah. And in fact, tradition tells us that this man was sawn asunder for preaching, for his faith, for holding forth the word of life. Now that's tradition, but I think that might be an allusion to what the author to Hebrews was talking about and those that were sawn asunder for their faith. I think that might be more than tradition in some regard when you have Hebrews that talks about people giving up their life for what they believe in their faith. The nation is polarized. Not only that, you have those that should have been with Judah. They should have been, Israel together. And then you have the Samaritans, mixed in between Ephraim and Judah. So sandwiched in the middle, you've got some racial things happening. That's where we got the Samaritans from, was the mixture of the northern tribes and the northern 10 tribes from the Assyrians that would come in and intermingle. Isaiah is a magnificent book in so many ways. Isaiah is going to come and prophesy in light of all of the current events that's happening in his day. They are on the brink of war. They are sitting in a place where there is turmoil. The threat of losing their security is real. And Isaiah comes with a message. It's the same kind of message that I bring to you today. If you place your faith, if you place your trust in Babylon, you're going to be let down. Isaiah's prophecy centers around nations, and one of those nations he mentions is Babylon. And in fact, you'll hear some refrain from Revelation. If you've read through Revelation, Babylon, Babylon, the great is fallen. Can I just submit to you this morning that Babylon is not where you need to put your trust? Okay, Pastor, what's Babylon? Well, the biblical Babylon goes all the way back to Genesis. Nimrod, the mighty hunter, remember him? A hunter of people. He actually convinced people to follow his lie. He led the world in rebellion against the Creator. Is there anybody that would seek to lead us in rebellion against our Creator today? Darwin, excuse me. Are there any humanistic philosophies that would seek to elevate itself against Almighty God? To call yourself a humanist in the Middle Ages was a different thing than to call yourself a humanist today. I hope you understand that. Babylon. Isaiah has a prophecy against Babylon. Can I just summarize Babylon for you as the world's war machines? Hey, if you're trusting in the world's war machines to bring the kind of peace we need, your peace is misplaced. Your trust is misplaced. Now, I'm all for leading with strength, okay? There's a time to take up arms and fight for what's ours. There's a time when, like old George Washington believed, we could all sit underneath our own fig tree. Now, I know that's a reference to the millennium, but did you know he actually believed that that could happen in America if we fought for it long enough and hard enough? He believed that, as Micah prophesied, we could all have our own little piece of private property that we could maintain and uphold and keep, and every man will sit under his own vine and his own fig tree. But hey, you're going to have to fight for that because we're not in the millennium yet. See, Jesus hasn't come back yet. So if we want to have that kind of ideal, it's going to take a lot of work, sweat, blood, toil, tears, until the Prince of Peace finally arrives. But hey, I know that we can realize a little bit of it here and now. It may not be, across the globe in a global economy, but I'm also assured that there's no machine of war that can provide that ultimate reality. We can't fight our way there for everybody. We might be able to claim a little piece of ground for us and whoever's with us, and we can hold that off and defend it, and we can put walls up, and we can protect what's ours. But there remains others that would yearn for the same kind of freedom and peace that we as Americans have known for years. The freedom to be able to openly worship God and hold forth this blessed book and say, we believe in Jesus Christ as the way of salvation for all who would come by faith. You see, we don't have to hide to do that. But we're seeing our freedom slip away, aren't we? It didn't take me long. I was just thumbing through the local headlines, just looking at what was out there. And I noticed there's a lot of people that their security has been displaced today. Even this morning, there was a shooting out in California again that I saw as I was just getting ready to come up here. I got the alert. 6 dead. Shootings on every hand. We have what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. Surely you've heard about all that's going on there. I had a picture I was going to put up, but I didn't. I chose not to, of a house that was decimated. We've got people that are going back looking for family now. We've been praying for these orphans that have thankfully made it to Italy, and they're on their way to finding a home, hopefully, for the Johnsons. We've been praying for them. But how many others haven't realized that? You see, there's no amount of warfare that we can trust in to bring us ultimate peace. This world is a world of heartache, and you will misplace your trust if you trust in Babylon, if you trust in the war machines of the world. The world system is broken, and may I submit to you, I believe it is irreparable with one condition. Messiah comes. That is the only way we're going to see this world fixed. Let me give you a definition of peace so we're all on the same page. Peace, if you look it up in the dictionary, this is Webster's, it's freedom from civil clamor and confusion. It's a state of public quiet. Look through the headlines. Have we arrived to that? Have we found this state of freedom from civil clamor and confusion? Have we found, number 5, definition number 5 was an absence of hostilities or war. Have we found that absence of hostilities or war? The 20th century expected utopia. The promise was utopia. Utopia. The Marxist cries out utopia. The socialist cries out utopia. The communist cries utopia. And we all share in utopia. The 20th century promise was utopia. The 20th century, friend, wound up being the bloodiest 100-year span in human history. Utopia. Utopia. This century started out with 9/11. Utopia. We fought against terrorism for decades. Since I was in college, we've been fighting against terrorism. We haven't overcome that, have we? In fact, some things just seem totally flipped on their head now, don't they? From 15, 20 years ago. What? I read these things that are happening and I just kind of scratch my head and go, man, things just shift and change. It's all sinking sand. There is no absence of hostilities or war. There is no place where this is found today. So I can't put my trust in Babylon. You see, Isaiah is prophesying about Babylon because Babylon is going to come and take over Judah. Babylon is on the horizon. God is going to use Babylon after He uses Assyria. He's going to use Babylon as His vehicle to judge God's people for their idolatry and their wickedness. Hey friend, judgment is coming. I don't know how long we have, but I do know God's word is sure. We will give an account, and our nation will pay for her sins. We're paying for them now. I'm not going to put my trust in chariots and horses. I'm not going to put my trust in Babylon. I'm not going to put my trust in the war machines of the world to try to bring this kind of peace that I need. It can't be found there. Now, if I'm called on to fight for what's mine, you believe me, I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder with others who do. And thank God, we have veterans in our congregation. We have veterans here that have served our country. Thank you. Thank you for furthering what Washington envisioned, for fighting for what you believed in America. There's only two nations on the earth that have this kind of testimony that they were built around the Word of God. That's Israel and the United States. And I think we're seeing history repeat itself. Now, we are not Israel. Don't misunderstand me. We are not Israel as America. We are a different nation. But can I tell you, the trajectory, history repeats itself. The same things that they were judged for, America's going to be judged for. Or God's going to have to apologize to Israel. Are we not steeped in idolatry? Have we not grown complacent in our prosperity? Have we not forgotten God as a nation? I'm speaking as a nation. Now, you haven't forgotten God. You're in church on Sunday morning. You understand? You're with me on this. But overall, has our nation really found repentance as a nation? Has our nation really turned its eyes to God? No, we get in trouble and then we say, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm not really sorry for the sin that put me here in this trouble. Fix it, Lord, fix it, God. And then for 2 weeks, people will be calling on God after something tragic happens, but then within a month, we're right back in the cesspool of sin as a nation. God help us. You see, Isaiah was giving a message to Israel. There's only one place that you can put your trust. The problem, may I submit to you, is that the world today is far from enjoying the absences of hostilities and war. If you need illustrations, just think about Ukraine, Russia, and China. If Isaiah were here today and we were to set it in a different stage, we might say, hey, it's not that far between the Bering Strait and Russia. And China's not far behind them. We've seen the Allied powers have to surmount and fight against an Axis before, haven't we? God forbid that should happen again. God forbid. But we haven't arrived. Okay, so what's the answer then? Well, we just all lay down our swords, right? We just give them all our guns. We just, say, hey, the guns are what's killing everybody anyway. Okay, I'm meddling. I shouldn't do that. We just give them our weapons. Everybody puts their guns down, right? Is that the answer? Was that the answer in Isaiah's day? Just stop all the fighting? I wish. Oh, how I wish we could just stop the fighting. The infighting, the outfighting. We could just all put down our sword and let's everybody get along now. Everybody's not going to get along. It's just not going to happen. Okay, well then the other answer is just one annihilate the other and then call it good. I don't think that's the right answer either. Because we need to respect one another. If for no other reason, then each of us is a human being created in the image of God. And we believe in the sanctity of life. And as Americans, we believe that each of us are free to pursue life and liberty and happiness. Did you know your liberties have been infringed like no other time in American history? If you were to define liberty the way the founders understood it, liberty would be freedom of movement from one place to another, unimpeded. Try that the next time you go through the airport. Try that the next time you're trying to go to certain states. Now, I think it's interesting that we can't take that kind of position with our own southern border, but again, I meddle. Everybody's got their own idea of what needs to happen, right? So who wins in the end? Do we just take each other out and then whoever wins, well, that's who gets the peace? That's a pie-in-the-sky idea as well. And how wrong, how atrocious, how much hurt would that bring on humanity? No, I don't think that's the answer either. The free world, okay, we ally together again and we engage a resurrected axis of power. Is that the answer? Friend, if you put your trust in the war machines of the world for the kind of peace that you truly need, you're not going to find it. You will not find it there. You might find quiet. You know, it's pretty quiet after the bomb goes off and there's nobody around. That's not the kind of peace that we need. It's pretty quiet after the storm comes through. And you know that calm after the hurricane? You can't even hear the birds anymore. That's not the kind of peace we need. As we continue this thought, Isaiah has prophecy against Babylon for his day and time. Isaiah also prophesies against Egypt. If Babylon represents the world's war machines and exalting ourselves and lifting ourselves up in pride, Babylon, Isaiah 14. Are any verses coming to mind for those of you who are versed in Isaiah? Isaiah 14. I will. We're not going to get there by pride. We're not going to get there by elevating ourselves. That brings humiliation in the end. We exalt ourselves against God, He promises we'll be brought low. That's a fundamental principle. But Isaiah also prophesies not only against Babylon, he prophesies against Egypt. And if I could just take this with a little liberty this morning. Again, I'm not looking at this by way of interpretation, but by way of application. If Babylon is representing the war machines of the world and the pride of man, where do we see the pride of man in Egypt? Well, could we say that it would be futile to place our trust in Egypt and in the wisdom of the world? The world's wisdom will never bring us the kind of peace we hope for and long for. The wisdom of this world. Hey, we mentioned it already. Back in the 20th century, World War I and World War II, those wars were fought by the most educated nations on the planet. And it's the bloodiest. The wisdom of the world, the philosophies of this world are going to leave you high and dry in the end. And my heart breaks for these university campuses, these people that have given in lock, stock, and barrel to all of these theories that they're throwing around out there. The wisdom of the world is not going to solve our problem. It's not going to take care of the issues that are polarizing us. In fact, they may be using this to create some polarization for all I know. I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm just a humble preacher, here in Colorado. What do I know? I know the wisdom of the world is foolishness. Critical race theory. I have a criticism, therefore I have a theory. That's basically what that is. The critical sciences have been left by the wayside. There's no peer review in this stuff. It's all just, okay, you have a criticism, well then you have a theory. It's not checked by any peer thing. There's no research in this, no legitimate academic research going on. We're in a mess. We're in a mess. And this stuff is being fed to our children that this is the answer. You don't believe me? It's happening? Check with your school boards. It's happening. And children are being faced with this every day here in Denver and in Westminster and all around. The wisdom of the world will never solve the problem. We cannot get there through the wisdom of the world. Isaiah talks about Egypt. He talks about Judah. To the north you have the Syrians, and they're going to ally with Ephraim. Ephraim and Tyre, they're going to come against Judah, and the king is shaking in his boots. Ahaz. And Isaiah has some words of prophecy for him. But then he also says, okay, by way of the sea, you're also going to have to watch out for the Philistines, for those down in Egypt. See, Egypt is not going to last forever. The wisdom of the world will never meet our needs. Education, technology. Think about how technologically advanced we've become and pretty sophisticated in a lot of ways. But we can't seem to fix the problem. Social media was supposed to do it, right? So we could socially engineer everything, and then we could create, areas where people could socialize with electronics. And wow. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I have an account, but it's stagnant. I haven't checked in there in a while. If I checked in, I'd probably know, a lot more of what's going on in the world and in people's lives. But I'm really okay not being on there. My life's a lot more peaceful since I put it down. Now, I'm all for connecting with family and those things, but man, there's a lot of data floating out there. A lot of data. Be careful who you give your data to. Mine's already out there, so I'm compromised anyway. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going to keep preaching. Amen. Come what may. Hey, education, technology. This world is far from the idea of civil clamor and confusion. There is no state of public quiet. No state of public quiet. People have been forced to polarization. Everywhere you turn, someone is trying to get you in their little red bandwagon. I learned a long time ago not to get on anybody's little bandwagon until you've heard both sides. There's always two sides to every story. He that answereth the matter before he heareth it, to him it is folly. The wisdom of the world, though, the experts say. Science says. Now, okay, I'm taking a little liberty there because true, genuine science, Christians have been involved in true, genuine science forever. Science is knowledge, and the ultimate knowledge is knowledge of God. And if we didn't have men like Michael Faraday and other Christians that helped us forge that pioneer those things forward, penicillin, you name it, these things, good things can come out of science. But science, use air quotes there if you're listening along. Science says, you need to wear 3 masks when you're by yourself outside. Okay. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Okay, please. Be safe. But some of this goes a little far, don't you think? Some of it. Now, hey, surgeons wear masks for a reason. But some of this goes a little far, don't you think? We need to wear masks sometimes, don't we? It's okay to wear a mask sometimes. Everybody go like this, yes. You should wear a mask sometimes. But some of this goes a little far, don't you think? Well, the politicians say, well, there you go again. The university says, the gurus say, the CDC says. That's sad because that's such a commentary on where so many people are. There was a day and time when the CDC had a little more clout behind it. Shame on us. Lord help us. Lord help us. The TV evangelist says, social media says, the wisdom of the world will never provide you the kind of peace that you truly need, friend. You won't find it on Facebook. You won't find it on Truth Social. You won't find it on Twitter. You won't find it in science. You won't find it in those things unless it leads you to the one true source. Okay, so then am I to believe the false narratives of humanistic philosophies? Do I just put my trust in that and say, okay, we're going to come through this. It may not be in my lifetime, but sometime we're going to arrive and we're all intrinsically good. I heard a prosperity gospel preacher say that recently, that we're all intrinsically good. So I just give into the narratives of humanistic philosophy. Do I just go that route and say, well, we're not as intrinsically evil as we think we are as a race. Now, I'm a simple guy, okay? Here's how I would put it to you simply. And forgive me if your name is Johnny. I'm not just picking on Johnny, but we like to pick on Johnny, don't we? If I leave little Johnny alone in the woods, I'm not going to have woods by the time he's done. And I don't have to teach Johnny how to tear that down. I know because I was Johnny. I didn't tear the whole woods down, but I'm really good at breaking stuff. Nobody had to teach me how to tear stuff down and break stuff. You've heard parents say it like this, I never had to teach my child how to sin. They just dream up ways, don't they? We're so creative when it comes to evil. We need to channel that and use it for good, amen? Channel that creative power. Instead of it being destructive, but are we not instinctively so selfish as a people? Personal preservation. That thought right there drives the motivation of the most desperate behavior. Personal preservation. We find a million ways to justify sin. Is there any amount of medicine? Is there any amount of therapy that can take care of this problem? Truly, deep down at the root of it, is there any medicine or theory or therapy that can do more than merely desensitize me to my pain and loss that stares me in the face every day without relent? I look at this world and I see heartache everywhere I turn. We are a broken people. In Isaiah's day, they might have thought they had it okay because things were quiet and they had plenty of material possessions and they hadn't fallen like the northern tribes had fallen yet. They hadn't gone to that level. They still had the promises of God that Judah and Benjamin had. But can I tell you, they honored God with their lips, and their heart was so far from Him, they lived in debauchery. That's why Jesus, when He came on the scene, He said they were whited sepulchres. Look good on the outside, but inside you're full of dead men's bones. Death stares us in the face everywhere we turn. We have no remedy. There's no medicine, there's no therapy that can take care of it. How long do I keep trying the world's wisdom before it finally breaks me down? How many times is one time too much? How long do I desensitize? The world today enjoys no peace, though it promises it. Those promises remain broken. The solution is not found in Babylon. The solution will never be found in the war machines of the world. The solution will never be found in the wisdom of the world. It'll never be found in Egypt. That'll never satisfy to bring the tranquility of soul that you long for. You won't find it in Babylon. You won't find it in Egypt. Well, there's another prophecy. As we continue to think about Isaiah, understandest thou what thou readest? How can I, except some man guide me? If we misplace our trust in Tyre, the city of Tyre now, that's metaphorically, I'm using that to illustrate another way that we misplace our trust today. Just as they misplaced their trust in their time, we too misplace our trust. We misplaced our trust in war machines. We misplace our trust in wisdom of the world, the philosophies, the rudiments of the world. Do we not also, and this is a big one, okay? I'm getting a little closer to home probably. We misplace our trust in Tyre, T-Y-R-E. It only brings heartache when we place our trust in the wealth of this world. You see, what is Tyre? Tyre is a place where the cedars of Lebanon were. Okay, Hiram was the king of Tyre. Remember, he sent all that stuff down to Solomon so they could build the temple, and boy, they had some good stuff. They had some good stuff. The world's economies, the world's wealth. You misplace your trust there. Now again, I'm all for investments. We just took FPU for crying out loud. Please be wise with what you're going to invest. But if you put your trust in that, it will let you down. It's let me down since I've been watching everything since January. Man. And then I go to the pump, and I heard Mike Pence. He said out in California, I haven't been out there, so I have to rely on him because he went out there to be with his kids, and he said he went to the pump, and it was almost $7 a gallon. The wealth of the world, the money of the world, mammon, Jesus called it. You can't serve God and mammon. You know that. I'm preaching to the choir. But let's not forget how easy it is to say, hey, I'm going to build up this nest egg and everything's going to be okay. I'm going to go away from the bustle of the city. I'm going to get this little place by the beach. I'm going to get this little place in the mountains someday. It's all going to be quiet. I'm going to be able to do all this. It's going to be all right. I'm just going to run away from the world and all the bustle, and I'm going to turn the headlines off. I'm going to turn the social media off, and I'm going to find peace. Yeah, you will, temporarily. It'll be quiet. So just as the aftermath of warfare brings quiet, so too, getting alone in God's creation and the beauty of it where everything's quiet. You need to do that sometimes, okay, for rest and relaxation. But if that's the ultimate peace, and that's as far as your peace goes, friend, you're so shallow. That's a shallow peace. Now, I like it just like anybody else. I'm all for it. Get out and get some recreation, rejuvenate, rebuild. So I'm not against that. But that's only going to go so far. Something will find you out there. Like especially here in Colorado, if you want your peace interrupted, just think about a bear being over there and, well, there goes that peace. He's hungry too for that fish you're going after. Even in those areas, our peace can be disrupted because we live in a fallen world. If we put our trust in the wealth of the world, if I could just fill in the blank, if it could just be like this, then I would find that tranquil state of freedom that I long for. We know what the millennium is going to be like. And again, I want to reiterate this point because as Americans, we need something to dream for. We need something to fight for. And I'm all for finding what Washington envisioned. Every man sitting down under his own vine and his own fig tree. That's the dream of America. The American dream is that you can come here and you can have your own little piece of that vine and fig tree and you can enjoy a little bit now of what's ultimately coming then. Let's fight for that. Let's long for it. But the Bible also says there is no peace to the wicked, saith the Lord. There's no peace. So if you're wanting a place where you can just continue to enjoy your sin without interruption, friend, you're not going to find that. There's no peace to the wicked. You look around today and things are getting worse and worse. We have crime on every hand. Where I live, crime has escalated. And I've heard former sheriffs stand up and say how bad the situation really is from behind the scenes. You don't have to take my word for it. We have things that are happening, and it's sad. We were just having a conversation yesterday, my wife and I, and she mentioned about somebody's truck that just got stolen. They're out there to take your stuff because they don't believe it's your fig tree and your vine. They believe it's theirs. And if they want it, they'll take it. We're not to the place where we can live without locks on our doors. Maybe you enjoyed that at one point or another, and thank God. You know, if we had more community, we might have a little more enjoyment of that. You know, like the uncle and the father that sees, hey, somebody just came down the road here that we don't recognize, and we've got neighborhood watch happening here, and so then they go, and little did they know they were interrupting in the middle of a robbery, and not anymore. And so by the time the police arrive, the people are saying, please take us to jail. Get us away from these people. Those are good neighbors. Amen? Those are good neighbors. But if we put our trust in the wealth of the world, we just become masters of self-medication. Masters of self-medication. The Bible still says the love of money is the root of all evil. If we put our trust in the wealth of the world, if we put our trust in the wisdom of the world, the war machines of the world, we're not going to find the kind of peace that we need. So what do? Okay, well, then I isolate myself. I live like a monk and I just get away from everybody, and I don't think that's the answer. Do I live like an Essene? You know, do we make a little commune somewhere and have a little way away from everything that we can just be ourselves and do what we want to do? Hey, the world is coming. Rome is at the doorstep. And you won't stay there forever. You might leave some articles like Qumran behind, but you won't be there. By the way, it's interesting to me, the scroll that was found in Qumran was Isaiah. Do I medicate myself? Do I just numb the pain away but ignore the problem? Do I throw more money at empty promises? I know I can just give our way out of this. We can just take care of it with more money. Well, if that doesn't work, then I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to go and I'm going to give myself to this cause here and to this cause here. Please do that, by the way. We have so many people that need help. Don't stop helping. In fact, if you do that, you are following what the Bible calls pure religion before the Father. Undefiled. You know what that looks like? To give yourself to the fatherless and the widow. Isaiah has a lot to say about how God treats the fatherless and the widow. The time is not for extortion and raising taxes and taxing the people to death. The time is for God's people to awaken and say, we need to be people of the book. We can't medicate this away. We can't just throw more money at it and it disappear. We can't fix the world's problems enough just by ourselves. You can do that, but you're never going to realize the ultimate goal. The world's war machines, the world's wisdom, those don't have the solution for peace. Am I so foolish to trust that I'll find it in the world's wealth then? I'm not so foolish. Because Jesus said to those that would follow Him, what shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? You'll not find it in the world's wealth. No, faith believes in the impossible. It's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You see, we're not looking for things to just be better in life, and then we're going to serve God. Spurgeon said it like this. He said, faith that only operates when all goes well is mockery of faith. Where are God's people that will stand up with men like Job who say, though he slay me, yet will I serve him. Though he slay me. You're not going to find the answer when you can medicate all the problems away and fix all the world's problems, that's not going to solve it, friend. Just to quieten everything down, that's not what we aim for. Spurgeon also said this. He said, "What are millions of gold laid by in the bank if you have no God to go to in the hour of distress?" What is all that worth when life happens? Now, it can make things a lot easier. I'm not arguing that. But if you have no God to go to, and that's all you have, friend, that's shallow. If the world's war machines are all you have to try to bring quiet, that's shallow. If the wisdom of the world is all you have to try to meet the needs around us, that's a shallow peace. If the wealth of this world is all you have, that's shallow. You're just barely getting your feet wet. As we think about wrapping things up here, I want to tell you, the world's no different than when Isaiah prophesied. We need physical deliverance. We need spiritual deliverance. There's only one place that we can go to get that. God calls His servants to preach His message. Okay, I'm going to just do a 30,000-foot flyover with you. Isaiah chapters 1 through 5. We need physical deliverance. Israel, Judah, needed physical deliverance. They were idolatrous. Judgment was coming. And by the time you come to chapter 5, you have men on the throne like Uzziah who had the audacity to think that as a king, he could do whatever he wanted. Hello, world leaders today. Uzziah, what is he known for? Well, he was a pretty good king, except for the fact that he thought he could become a priest and go in and do the office of a priest, and God smote him with leprosy. He found out real quick he couldn't just do whatever he wanted as king. And this is when Isaiah says it was in the days of Uzziah, the king that was smitten with leprosy. In the days of Uzziah, Isaiah saw the Lord. Isaiah chapter 6, you have Isaiah's call, his cleansing, his commission. God raised up a man for that hour to bring a message of hope to the world, starting from the top down. And Isaiah said, I'm a man of unclean lips. I dwell amongst a people of unclean lips. And the Lord cleansed him. And he had communion with holy, 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 the Lord God Almighty. And then Isaiah hears, who will go for us? And whom shall we send? And Isaiah said, here am I, Lord. Thank God. Thank God for people, men and women alike, who came to that place in their life that they said, Lord, I see You for who You are. I see me for who I am. And only by Your grace can I be where You want me to be and where I need to be. And then God says, who's going to go? And they said, me, Lord. I'm thankful for men and women in my life that had said that to God and brought the message of hope of Jesus Christ to me. But Paul argues, how are they going to hear without a preacher? How is this community going to know that there's only one answer if you don't go tell them? How will they hear? If you don't, like Isaiah, see the Lord for who He is and see what He can do for you as far as you might be away and feeling as Isaiah did, a man of unclean lips, I'm not fit to be used. The Lord can change that. And He wants to change that. And He's looking for someone to just say, here am I, Lord. Take the message of hope that Isaiah has. Perfect peace is only to those who put their trust in Jehovah. You see, by the time we come to chapter 7 to chapter 39, here's the message. Only Jehovah can deliver. And then you get into chapter 40, wings like eagles. And then you get into the servant songs. And in Isaiah 53, where Philip preached to the eunuch Jesus, and he believed on Him and was baptized and gave his life to Jesus Christ. What a book, Isaiah. And right here, nestled in the middle of it all, we find that you'll have peace like a river when you realize that Jehovah, can I translate that to the New Testament? Jesus is the only one who can truly deliver. He is the one that was promised of God. He is the fulfillment of Emmanuel. Isaiah has a lot to say about God with us. In fact, there's something that happened that always strikes me as interesting. Isaiah is told by God to do a lot of crazy things sometimes. If you don't believe me, look at that time he was called to walk around for 3 years down in the city. It's a pretty humbling experience for Isaiah, I'm sure. You see, he was a living sermon in so many ways. And when he walked around the way that he did, he showed what was coming, and he showed how Judah was going to be disrobed of all of her merchandise, of all of her luxury, of everything that she had trusted in. And he was a living sermon to those people. You talk about humbling. Isaiah was a humble man. And he's given this task by the Lord to go before the king and take his son with him. And it's interesting what his son's name means. It means the remnant shall return, if you look it up. And in chapter 7, Isaiah goes into the courtroom of the king, Ahaz, and they have threats all around them. And Isaiah says it's going to be okay because God's going to raise up a miraculous deliverance here. A virgin shall conceive. If you read the margin, it's almost like Isaiah is saying, a virgin shall conceive, a young woman shall conceive. You see, so there's some dual aspects of prophecy going on here because Jesus is the ultimate fulfillment of that. But right there in this courtroom, I could just see Isaiah telling his son, it's okay, just hold on. He said, Daddy, why are we here? What's going on? A virgin shall conceive and bring forth a son and shall call his name Emmanuel. What is the answer? God with us. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands. One nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You read Isaiah 26, here in the midst of it all, after these prophecies are given to the nations. You can't trust in Babylon. You can't trust in Egypt. You can't trust in Tyre. You can't trust in the things of the world. It won't bring the answer you're looking for, Ahaz, but God's going to raise up one in your midst through a miraculous provision. And this one is your deliverance. He's the only one that can bring true peace. And then in Isaiah 26:3, I just pointed out to you here, it says, Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace. That's the Hebrew way of emphasizing. If you read it in the original, it says, Thou wilt keep him in peace, peace. Thou wilt keep him in shalom, shalom. That's how they'd say it. We render it as perfect peace. Shalom, shalom. There's only one place this shalom, shalom. There's only one place this peace, peace can be found. And the verse answers it. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace. Who's going to do the keeping? God. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace. What's the answer? Whose mind is stayed on Thee because he trusteth in Thee. Friend, when you come to the place where you trust in Jesus Christ and in Jesus Christ alone is all of your hopes and all of your dreams and everything that you're relying on, then, friend, you'll find that quiet. You'll find that peace that the war machines of the world, the wisdom of the world, the wealth of the world can never offer you. You'll find it when you trust Jesus. In Isaiah 10:3, he posed a question to them. In the middle of that verse, he asked them, To whom do you turn for deliverance? I pose that question to you. To whom do you turn? Your 401k? To whom do you turn? The university? To whom do you turn? Washington? To whom do you turn? Friend, I'm here to tell you this morning, I turn to the Lord Jesus Christ. Because here's what Isaiah goes on to tell us about. He answers with Emmanuel. He answers with God with us. That's the answer. That is where deliverance is found, in Jehovah, in God with us. But Ahaz made a drastic mistake because he refused to believe the message of the prophet. And Isaiah paid a dear price for it. Your destiny, chapters 8 through 12 of Isaiah, your destiny depends on what you do to trust the Lord. Will you trust Him or will you not? Your destiny hangs in the balance. Trust Him, all is well. Reject Him, you're doomed. You are doomed. Because Egypt, Babylon, Tyre, the nations of the world, this world is headed for doom and destruction, and here it is, death. Death stares us in the face everywhere we turn. The only answer is Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. To depend on the world is to be doomed. Isaiah chapter 13 to 23. And then in chapters 24 to 27, we find a tale of two cities. There's the city of the world and the city of our God. The city of the world is the pride of man, and it leads to death and destruction. But the city of Jehovah, the old hymn writer sang it like this: on a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And it's when I come to that cross and I realize that the Son of God was slain for the sins of the world, and I come by faith through Him and I trust in Him alone to take me where I can't go otherwise, then the bridge is covered. The great gulf is fixed. And I can come through Jesus Christ, my Savior. And I understand better what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15. Herein is that saying fulfilled: death is swallowed up in victory. Think that through. Because Tyre, Damascus, the gods of this world, one of them's name is Moth. It was known to swallow up things, and it had a big gullet that it would just swallow things up. This is what the false believers believed. They believed in this God, and so the picture of Isaiah is that's going to be swallowed up. Death is going to be swallowed up in victory, and it was at Calvary. Friend, have you come to Calvary? Have you come to that city set on a hill? Have you come to Jerusalem where Jesus Christ walked and tread His feet and laid down His life for you on Golgotha? Do you understand what the death of Jesus does for you? If you do, then I close by just reminding you of that other hymn that goes a little like this. My chains fell off. My heart was free. I rose, went forth, and followed Thee. Friend, I'm out of time. You've been so kind to give me your attention this morning. But I hope you won't go away trusting in the world, because this world's going to let you down. As soon as you walk out those doors and check the news reports, your heart's going to fall. As soon as you look around at what's going on in the church family, your heart's going to fall. As soon as you go look at what's happening to your investments, your heart's going to fall. As soon as you look at what's happening to our kids and what they're being taught and the philosophies of this world, your heart's going to fall. But friend, I'm here to tell you there's a better answer. And His name is Jesus Christ. Thou wilt keep Him in perfect peace. Shalom, shalom. Because he trusteth in thee. Have you trusted in the only true source of forgiveness for sin and hope for your soul? Have you trusted in Jesus Christ?